in 10 minutes, you'll totally, or you're going right into the next.
Will we do 10:15? Start
Yeah.
10. We'll make up 10.
Okay. So in 10 minutes, we'll start the regular meeting, for all those of you on Zoom. 10-minute break. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this Ag Commission meeting. I will call this meeting to order at 10:17, July 22nd, 2026. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation. Today's meeting is being recorded and can be viewed online on CDA's YouTube channel. The public can join today's Ag Commission meeting through the Zoom webinar. At this time, I'm gonna go into commission member roll call. Ag Commission Vice Chair Jeff McCullough.
Present.
Ag Commission member Catherine Bedell. Ag Commission member David Block.
Present.
Thank you. Ag Commission member Elena Miller Turkuli.
Present.
Ag Commission member Harrison Top.
Present.
Ag Commission member Nick Trainer. I see his name. Okay. Ag Commission member Colleen Pepler.
Present.
Thank you. Moving on here, I'd like to see if we get approval of the meeting agenda. Ah, okay. Ag Commission, Dr. Amanda Weaver.
Here.
Okay, thank you. No Nick, so we'll just wait and see what,
Nick is on, he'll probably jump back.
jump back in. Next is approval of the meeting agenda.
Mr. Chair, I approve the agenda for today.
Okay, motion made by David. Do I have a second?
I'll second Amanda Weaver.
Thank you. Second by Dr. Amanda Weaver. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion carries. Next on the agenda is the approval of May meeting minutes and June meeting minutes. Any discussion needed before vote? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, David Block, I approve the May meeting minutes and the June meeting minutes.
Thank you. Motion by David. Do I have a second?
This is Jeff McCullough. I'll second it.
Thank you, Jeff. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion carries. At this time, before moving into public comment, we've got Commissioner Wendell Combs here with us this morning that would like to address. Welcome, Commissioner.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you. And welcome all the board members here and also all the staff for the Department of Ag. Director Greenberg, I really appreciate you guys coming to Delta County. You can see from your time here how important agriculture is to us. We are an ag-based economy and look to stay so for many, many generations. If Delta County can provide any input or help for you guys in the work you do, we're standing here with you. We're very supportive of that. And we appreciate all the mental health updates and stuff we received last night. And thanks for dinner. That was quite enjoyable. We had a nice visit. Too bad TK couldn't make it.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll reiterate that comment of dinner last night. Thank you. That was really good. Very good. At this time, we'll move into public comment. Hi.
Commissioners, hi, I would like to introduce myself. I'm a coworker of Billy. I work for the Colorado Attorney General's office. I am our rural outreach specialist and I am based here 100% on the western slope, currently residing in Montrose. It was really the vision of the Attorney General to have somebody in our rural communities that was showing up and listening and connecting to the office. So please consider me a resource and an open door to the Attorney General's office. So I'll be here all day, and if you'd like to touch base, I'd be happy to give you my contact information. Thank you.
Okay, this time, go ahead.
Oh, I would just say, if there's anybody online that would like to make a public comment, can you please raise your hand?
Nobody, okay. The meeting is now closed to public comment. Moving down to Commissioner Greenberg's update.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to say thank you to all of our Delta County hosts. Many of whom are here, so Commissioner Coons, our County Administrator, Robbie LaValle. We have farmers here at the table online and in the audience who have welcomed us. And of course, Director Tuck for hosting us as our local farmer here in Hotchkiss. Yesterday was a great day of tours. Our group got to go down just north of Olathe and visit Tuxedo Corn and David Harold and his family. So big thanks to David. And we discussed the partnership we have with the insectary around corn earworm, which we know, of course, is a big challenge for our Olathe sweet corn growers. We had a chance to visit Cedar Springs Farm up north of Hotchkiss, which was a wonderful reprieve from the heat. And we got to see firsthand how that family is managing their water for really regenerative sort of, ranch and farm integrated system that's both raising the water table and allowing them to make a living off of the land and in agriculture. And in drought year like this one, it's pretty remarkable to see and appreciate their time. Harrison, of course, thank you to you and Stacia for welcoming our group to your orchard just down the street. And then Mesa Winds last night for hosting our community dinner and public forum. Just a wonderful couple of long table dinners, which we're going to be doing throughout the rest of the year, but a chance to just hear from folks here in Delta County, what's going on, what kind of is top of mind, and how CDA can take what we learned here and hopefully make it into something useful for this community in particular. So many thanks across the board. I know we're a little behind schedule and we have folks on who are going to cover some of what I would, especially Dr. Baldwin, who is going to be covering some of our animal health updates. So I will, for the first time in a while, not be giving the New World Screwworm update to a board, which I'm pleased to get to hand over to Maggie today. But I also want to say thank you to Rogers Mesa and CSU for allowing us to be here. And just to be surrounded by agriculture here in Hotchkiss while we meet is a treat. So thank you all. I think the things I want to touch on briefly today: wildfire response. Huge shout out to our CDA team and our partners across the state. It's so wonderful being here with clear skies, but I know that has not been the case for you all out here with the fire that's been burning north of Ouray. Of course, we've been fixated on the Aspen Acres fire as well outside of Pueblo, which has superseded 100,000 acres. CDA, we're responsible for what's known as ESF 11, Emergency Support Function 11 in the state. So we are large animal evacuations and we support companion animal evacs. We do support through various divisions. So we have our emergency management team that's under Maggie, Dan Frazen, and Jerry Casebolt, who are sitting in emergency operations centers locally and at the state level, actually helping administer resources and do all the pieces of incident command on these fire responses. Our state fair was the primary evacuation site for large animals. We peaked at, I think, over 1,400 large animals we cared for during the Aspen Acres fire. But our EM team manages and monitors evacuations around the state. Our brands team is at those evacuation sites to make sure that animals are rehomed with their proper family and owners, as we see folks unfortunately taking advantage during crisis, and our brands team is there to prevent that. Our Division of Animal Welfare has been on the ground, mainly supporting companion animal evacs and rehoming, making sure families and pets stay together, and doing just great work there. We have had fantastic partnership with Extension. So another thing that's not known as much as I think it should be is the role Extension plays in disaster response, and they take on the local ESF 11 duties. So we actually have CDA and Extension statewide. We have an MOU that we cross-train with emergency response and preparedness, and it is playing out across the state with all this wildfire response, the work we've done leading up to now. So just very appreciative of that partnership. We have had down in Pueblo, the Pueblo CART team, the large animal response team has been huge. Parks and Wildlife, CDPHE, we've had, Maggie can speak to this a little bit too, a Front Range Volunteer Veterinary Association that's provided free veterinary care to animals in need. The list goes on, but the bottom line is the partnerships have been incredible on wildfire response, and it doesn't stop it at response. We are now able to be a part of recovery. So the governor has activated the recovery task force for all the major named fires, which means that even while firefighters were out fighting the fire, the recovery task force was already working on what does recovery mean for those impacted individuals. Division of Insurance is a great example where they're already working with homeowners who lost homes in the Aspen Acres fire. So I know out here on the West Slope, you all are not strangers to fire risk and to actual fire. And of course, the impacts of smoke and what this means for just doing your work outside and farming and ranching, not to mention what sort of a burned landscape means down the road. But just know that we have been really committed to showing up in very tangible ways before, during, and after these kinds of events. With that, last night we spoke a lot about the work we're doing in conservation, and I think it's probably more clear than ever, though I don't think anybody at this table needs more reminders about how important it is that we continue the work of conservation and agriculture, whether that's, the work we're doing on soil health, for our Ag Stewardship Tax Credit, our climate resilience grants, where it's, this is a great year. We're investing with the little resource we have, but we are committed to pushing forward investments for producers who have been impacted by natural disasters exacerbated by climate change to be able to build back with more resilience for future events. And we're learning a lot about what that looks like. I think there's just a wide open horizon about how we push forward in that regards. I also want to mention, you ag commissioners here at the table have these wonderful hats from our Palisade Insectary, which is, just across the mesa. We celebrated 80 years of the Insectary last August, and for those of you who can't see, this hat says "Good bugs do great work," and they sure do. The latest work we're putting these bugs to work on are the mountain pine beetle outbreak on the Front Range. So the governor's activated a mountain pine beetle task force. We are part of the Insectary is actually rearing the predator that eats the mountain pine beetle. In fact, we have a great story of our team. They went out to collect that predator in the field and had some mountain pine beetles in the same box as the predator. And by the time they got back to the Insectary, those mountain pine beetles had been demolished. So we'll be doing releases and working with that task force. But when it comes to thinking about the role that the Department of Ag and Ag in general can play in conservation, restoration, resilience, we're on forest health now. I mean, we've been on riparian health, watershed health, we're on forest health now, and all of that is part of what a vibrant, resilient future for ag looks like, but also ag can play a role in helping the rest of the state build a more resilient future. So again, just very proud of our work there. I want to say thank you to our mental health partners who are behind us and will be presenting later today. Just fantastic partnership on mental health, on the road show that we're doing with 988, with Behavioral Health Authority and all the rural outreach going on. You just can't say enough that, you need help, go get it. That is the strongest thing you can do is ask for help. And we want to really destigmatize that realm of work. And I think these partnerships are doing that. So thank you guys so much and look forward to those updates. Last but not least, and of course, happy to take any questions. I'm just doing a really top level overview. 250, 150 updates. So 250th birthday of the US, 150th of Colorado. As you all know, at Stock Show in January, we unveiled a commissioned mural, 35-foot long traveling mural, created by Detour, who's an artist in Denver, just incredible artistic genius in my mind. This mural's traveling the state. It's out in Wiggins, Billy's home ground, 4th of July. It's been making its way around county fairs. Really is a way for folks to hopefully get engaged in agriculture, ask questions, see themselves in ag, be part of our community. It'll be down at the state fair. You all have stickers of the mural here at the table. We are really promoting this as part of our overall campaign, which is Setting Colorado's Table. You can go to settingcoloradostable.org or .com and learn more about what we're doing to try and really connect people to agriculture, celebrate all that we are in the ag community, which is so much, and make sure that we are setting the table for many generations to come of Colorado agriculture. Next Tuesday, we are launching our coffee table book, which was written by History Colorado. The mural is the cover. Marissa has brought those of you who are in the book and commission members a copy. Those of you in the audience, you will have the ability to purchase this book through History Colorado's bookstore, and bookstores all around the state will be distributing this to lots. I think we have, independent booksellers, museum bookshops that are going to be selling this book. $30 from the sale of each book will go back to farmers and ranchers directly through our soil health program. So you buy this book, you're directly supporting Colorado's producers. And again, these are stories and histories of Colorado ag told through the oral histories that you all participated in last year, through interviews conducted by Rachel Storm, our author. She did an amazing job. These oral histories that you all did are online. We'll be making sure you have access to the link. It's all public, open source on History Colorado SoundCloud. And we're hoping that we'll be able to develop a partnership with public radio and other local stations to elevate your stories and get the word out about all that you do. State Fair, we're going to be kind of launching the next segment of our campaign, which is the start of our harvest table dinners. So for the last many years, we've had a Colorado Proud food truck competition called the Governor's Plate. This year, it's the Governor's Table. And we are going to have 250 guests sitting together over a shared meal, eating Colorado grown and raised products, celebrating Colorado agriculture, and then hopefully going home and continuing to do the same. And our number one message this year is, yes, the drought is tough. Yes, wildfires are tough. Tough is an understatement. So buy local and support your local farmers. And so we're hoping to put our money where our mouth is and also get people connected who might not have a chance to talk to each other otherwise. So that's it for me. Happy to take any questions or comments from the board.
Any questions at this time?
I think it was Robbie's comment last night about, well, why don't we have a wrap why don't our McDonald's semis have a wrap that say Eat Colorado Produce? And this isn't that, but it is nice to see art and creativity coming into the department and doing things that connect in Colorado through culture. So I'm thrilled. I think it looks great. So cool.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Regional Assistant Commissioner updates. Any takers?
Riley and George are online.
Okay, George? Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you all, if only virtually, which seems to be the way we do business these days, but yeah. Anyway, things in the valley here are pretty much the same they are all over the state. Drought, high temperatures. It was 94 degrees 2 or 3 days ago here in the valley, which is really hot for this at this altitude in this area. I'm not sure the valley's ever broke 100. I don't ever remember that. So hopefully we don't have to see that. It is stressing the cattle a little bit, and the grasses that don't have any irrigation or there's not many rain. We still haven't had any rain here. Still waiting for these monsoons to come through later this week. So all of the upland countries, BLM, Forest Service are all extremely dry. Some people are bringing cattle back out of the mountains who took them up, and we've never taken ours out. We're cycling around on the ranch here and making plans to start to regraze some of the meadows, which we are able to irrigate here. And then looking into the fall and next winter and have to plan all the way really to next June when you think about it, how to get through this winter and what kind of forage we have. But we're very lucky here. We haven't had fire like a lot of people have. So heart goes out to people all over the state. Could be worse. I did participate in a cross training with the San Luis Valley group. Larry Brown, the extension agent, led a group here the other day in Alamosa, and we sat down and had a really productive, I felt, session about what to do and where animals could be taken in several areas in the valley. The primary one being the Sky High Stampede grounds in Monte Vista, probably the best place depending on where. And then we also talked about other, sites, rodeo grounds, any place where animals could be taken. Talked about the use of the sale barn, and a huge shout out to brand inspectors who have to keep track of all these animals as they come in. A lot of the producers who are affected by fire are small producers, and a lot of animals aren't branded, or they're different species that don't require that. And keeping that up, that's a real job. And so we talked about support for them if that should happen and how we might help that. Other than that, the call potato thing, I'm going to let Jeff, probably he's going to cover that much better than I will. I do know there are a lot of potatoes being moved, and the new crop looks really good. I see a lot of potatoes that are planted. I don't know how acreage wise how that compares to past years, but seemed like people replanted a lot of potatoes. As far as water, the sub-district number 1 trial is ongoing in Alamosa right now. Today, Kevin Ryan, the past state water engineer, is scheduled. He's testifying at this moment, I assume. And that trial's been very contentious, of course. A couple of different groups, local farmers, SWAG, the Sustainable Water Agricultural Group, and then El Cross Ranch have opposed that plan. From what I read in the paper, Judge Gonzalez is thinking that they're just trying to kick it down the road and have an appeal to the Supreme Court. I don't know how that will really go. We'll see how he rules in the end, and I'm just reading the paper like everybody else, but watching it fairly closely. Sub-district number 5, our sub-district up here, we haven't got anything more than just preliminary reports back on our aquifer, which was increasing. We have been able to increase our aquifer in the north end of the valley since we formed the sub-district, but I'm judging by just my condition of my artesian wells that we're going to see a drop this year because people are just generally pumping a lot more of their allocation because of a lack of surface water. Swatch Creek is at half of the number 5 priority right now, which is not much water in Swatch Creek, barely making it to Swatch. Here on the ranch, we did an Audubon, had our 3-year Audubon audit just in the last few days, and so Audubon has been out checking on the bird populations, and I haven't heard a whole lot back from them yet. We did pass our audit with no trouble. And I am seeing a lot fewer birds this year than we normally get. I think the number of species is probably about the same, but there just aren't as many. I'm also not seeing a lot of insects. I pay a lot of attention to dung beetles and things in the manure, and it just seems like there's less insect activity in general. So I really applaud the pesticide disposal rules you guys are working on. That's a step in the right direction, certainly, and part of that problem. We hosted the Southwest cohort of the Covera apprentices. 9 different apprentices came to the ranch 2 weeks ago and spent 3 days here. We did a livestock handling clinic and talked about regenerative agriculture and livestock management. And then also just this week, CSU's Masters in Ranch Management, that class came through and we spent 2 days with them in the field talking about regenerative ag and drought management and the things that we're trying to do here. And I believe that's about it for me. So if any questions, I'll take them. Otherwise, good to see you all.
Okay, thank you, George. Riley?
Good afternoon. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, it's kind of humorous, all the similarities that I share with George on what's going on as far as our personal ranch, but Southeast Colorado specifically is, as you can all imagine, extremely dry. The Arkansas River is very low. The creeks are stopping. Several wells have dropped water enough that it's the lowest they've ever been, obviously, and we're having to drop a few pumps down to be able to get by for now and try to make some plans, but we're hauling a lot of water too. A lot of producers are selling cattle, and those that are able to feed their cows for now are already scrounging for feed for this winter. And every single day there's a lot of contact looking for feed and, you know, anything. Nobody's too picky right now, but just more so what's available. And the answer is typically nothing, because there's no corn to speak of in the Arkansas Valley that I've seen. So someone calls and they say, hey, I'd like to, get some corn silage put up for this winter so I can feed my calves, and they want to know the price. And it's like, well, I can't give you a price because there is none. I don't know what it would cost, but we don't have any. Nobody has any to sell. There's a lot of the corn that has failed and is being salvaged, but it's probably not worth the diesel it costs to go get it right now. So that all leads to more cattle sales, and things are tough, as everybody knows, but that's about all I have for updates other than weather and those type of conditions. I don't have much to share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Riley. Moving on to legislative policy and budget update. Jordan?
And Mr. Chair,
Yes,
if
sir.
we could have Dr. Baldwin go first,
Okay.
she has to leave for a meeting here shortly.
All right. Dr. Baldwin.
All right, I'm trying to get my screen set up here. Good morning. Can you guys hear me, see me, and see my
Yes.
screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks so much. Jordan, thank you for letting me slide in before you. I appreciate it. I am on a little bit of a time crunch. Have another meeting to get to right at 11. So we do also have Dr. McGrath on to be available for questions. Primarily wanted to give New World screwworm updates, but before I start on that, I also just wanted to mention briefly, we are seeing some increased vesicular stomatitis virus activity on the western slope. So we have a few cases out on the western slope. We are keeping updated on our website, and maybe Dr. McGrath can drop the link to that in the chat. It's ag.colorado.gov/VSV. Just seeing some additional cases in horses and have some investigations. So with that, we'll jump into New World. So some current numbers in the overall outbreak in Mexico and Central America. As of July 14th, over 189,000 New World screwworm cases in animals, over 2,000 cases in people. The Mexico status as of July 15th is a total of 33,467 cases across 28 Mexican states. Again, primary species affected has been cattle. So the initial detection of New World screwworm in the United States was reported on June 3rd, which is just 7 weeks ago. And to date, they have had a total of 41 cases. So if you go to screwworm.gov, which is the federal landing page for New World screwworm, there is a dashboard that's available to the public, and they keep track of the cases. There's a little bit of confusion associated with the dashboard because they have cases listed as active and inactive cases, but that does not mean that the infested zones are active or inactive. The infested zone status is set by the states, and so there's a little bit of language that they're trying to clarify and correct on the dashboard. But currently, all of the infested zones are still active. The inactive cases are when the lesions have resolved or the animal has completed treatment. So currently, there's just a little bit of confusion there, but we are trying to keep track of that. So as I mentioned, 41 cases total. One of those was in New Mexico in a dog. The remaining cases have been in Texas. No wildlife detections, no wild fly detections as of yet. So we are continuing to monitor those. And as a reminder, the zones. So the infested zone is that initial 20 kilometers around a detection. So an animal detection or fly detection. And then outside of that is an additional 20-kilometer adjacent surveillance zone. So they are posting, and I'll show you a map here from Texas, what that infested zone and surveillance looks like, because there's different activities that happen in each of those zones. They aren't posting the fly surveillance zones, but that's determined depending on local geography, weather, et cetera, up to 200 kilometers outside of that initial detection. So this is a map. This is publicly available on the Texas Animal Health Commission website. And the neat thing with this map on the Texas side, at least, is you can go in, you can enter your address and see if you land within the infested zone. So they are doing messaging, trying to ensure that animals leaving those infested zones meet the movement requirements, not only to leave the infested zone, but of course, to the state of destination if they are going to another state. So the yellow is the infested zone. The blue is that adjacent surveillance, that additional 20 kilometers. And you can see that some of these are coalescing in Texas. And so some of them they've put together a little bit more of a modified zone, and they're trying to ensure that they have everything captured within those zones. So an update on the sterile fly production. So one of the tools that we use for New World Screwworm Response is, of course, the release of sterile flies. We've talked about this. The current need is about 500 million flies per week, and that's due to, of course, detections in Texas, but also the ongoing detections and response needs in Mexico. So right now, COPEG, which is the facility down in Panama, is at their max production, which is 100 million sterile flies per week. They are looking at, converting additional flies to fly dispersal, additional facilities to fly dispersal centers, as well as converting a previous fruit fly production facility in Matapa to a production facility for sterile screwworm. And then more airbase. That one is continuing on to be a production facility and a domestic dispersal center. The NovaFly, I can't recall if we talked about this last time, but a really neat thing that they're looking at is it's actually genetically engineered New World Screwworm, male only genetically engineered New World Screwworm flies, which then go on to be sterilized. This would effectively double the production of our sterile insect technique because right now, as they're producing flies, they're producing, of course, male and female. So if we can limit that to just male, we would essentially double that output of the sterile insect technique. This was developed through USDA ARS Ag Research Service. The emergency exemption to use this has been submitted to EPA, but it is not yet approved. So we're all waiting for this to come through. So again, we met, in June. I was out on the Oregon coast, I think, met in from the hotel room out there to adopt the emergency rule on June 10th. This really followed the USDA Continuity of Business Plan for Colorado, and it stated three things. One, no animal with New World Screwworm myiasis can enter Colorado. Two, any warm-blooded animal originating from a New World Screwworm infested zone has to meet the enhanced requirements. I actually did not include, I'm skipping that slide just to keep it a little bit shorter. Enhanced requirements that are outlined in that rule, again, in line with the Continuity of Business Playbook. And then the third is that any dog and cat coming from a state with an active infested zone must have a CVI within 5 days prior to movement. So that has been in place since June 10th. And then just broadly, the animal movements around New World screwworm, you know, as states, we have been asked to try and align our movement requirements with the USDA continuity of business document. It is very challenging for producers and veterinarians to keep track of all of the varied requirements from state to state. And so having that continuity of business document and trying to be in line with that helps with our accredited veterinarians that are writing those CVIs for movement, helps with the producers to ensure that they meet those movement requirements. But I will say there are a lot of variations between states. There are some states that aren't accepting any dogs and cats from, New World screwworm affected states. There are some states that, have different levels of risk and different types of movements that move to their states, and they have different levels of their willingness to accept risk. So we are encouraging anybody moving between states right now to just make sure that you are checking those requirements for the state of destination, making sure that you're meeting those requirements. And then there was a new notice posted. This is just a brief screen capture from the USDA website. But there are some international restrictions currently. Canada has new restrictions on animals coming from the state of Texas as an affected screwworm state. So this is something for us to just keep in mind, that if we had detections of screwworm here in Colorado, that we would see not only other states putting import restrictions on animals coming from our state, but also, other countries like Canada putting restrictions on animals coming from our state if we were to have cases here. So what's next? We are continuing to monitor, of course, the cases in Texas and the Mexico ongoing outbreaks, monitoring movements coming from those areas. So we do have team members that are keeping an eye on those health certificates coming from Texas, making sure that if we have movements coming, they have met our requirements. And in any that don't, we are following up on. So this is going to be a really important ongoing thing. I would say at this point, we are seeing steady case numbers, but not alarming case numbers. But we want to make sure that, we continue to see what's going on down there. We've got good transparency with what they're doing, and we can feel comfortable with how we're responding. We are also doing ongoing surveillance here in Colorado. All, of course, have been submitted that they have all come back negative, but we've had domestic animals, so we've had companion animals and livestock that have been reported to us with MyISS. We collect the samples, we submit them, and that process seems to be going very well. And again, all have been negative up until now. Hopefully that trend continues. Our emergency rule is expiring in October, so we're going to continue to monitor what the outbreak in Texas, and hopefully it stays just in Texas, but continue to monitor what that looks like in Texas and look at, what should we do for next steps. So whether that's incorporating those import requirements into, our standing import requirements, but looking at what that looks like, we'll keep the Ag Commission informed and see if we need to adopt a new emergency rule or look at other options. Because it does look like this will be an ongoing outbreak down in Texas for a while. And then lastly, we are continuing our preparedness activities here in Colorado. So we did host the National Training Exercise Program tabletop exercise. This is their new pilot exercise for New World screwworm on June 30th. That exercise went very well. We had between 30 and 35 people there from state and federal agencies. Really, really good discussion. And we do have some next steps that have come out of that tabletop exercise, one of which is we are working on putting together a certified inspector training for Colorado. Right now, we're going to be focusing that training on our CDA folks, so Animal Health Division, our strike team, and brands folks, and ensuring that if we were to have a detection, we have folks that can go out and inspect those animals. In Texas, they have done, since their outbreak started 7 weeks ago, and this is a number that we got yesterday, they have inspected over 18,000 animals for New World screwworm leaving those zones. So that need for certified inspectors does seem to be, at least in Texas where they're affected, pretty large. So Dr. Morgan McCarty, who will be on later today to talk about our public livestock market rule. She is working with some folks on putting that training together. And then lastly, we are continuing our agency coordination meetings. So meeting with CDPHE and USDA, both veterinary services, wildlife services, and our Colorado Parks and Wildlife folks on, general disease updates, but then New Worlds Group specific updates. With that, I've got just a few minutes left for questions, and I will stop sharing my screen and open the floor to you all for questions.
Any questions for Dr. Baldwin?
All right, everybody is stunned into silence. We'll hope that that is a good thing. And feel free to reach out at any time if you do have questions in the future. You all know how to get a hold of me.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Baldwin.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Jordan, do you want to go into your?
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Sounds good. Yeah, my updates will be very brief today. We're kind of right in the beginning of planning for next legislative session. Obviously, this is going to look a little bit different this year with the transition in administration that will be happening. Typically, that means they're, the agency agenda items that are put forward, there's a little bit more scrutiny on them to make sure that they're really bipartisan measures. That's not really going to impact us because, in the 7 years I've been in this job and working on legislation for the department, every single one of our bills, except for one of them this past session, has had bipartisan prime sponsors. And so that's always a goal of ours. So I don't anticipate that really impacting our process as we go forward this year on legislation. On the budget side of things as well, again, the governor is required to submit a proposed budget each year, November 1st. So that will be happening again this year. We are going to be going through that process this fall and looking at kind of the budget outlook for this next year. Again, we anticipate another challenging budget cycle. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but we, look forward to those budget forecasts that are put out by both the legislative staff and the governor's office staff to help kind of guide where that's going to go from an agency perspective. I do just want to let you know, though, and kind of remind you what our guiding principles are when we're going through that budget process. And it's really trying to protect those services and the funding that go directly to our producers in the state. That's kind of our primary objective in protecting those services. And then the second one is really trying to protect our core services and our staff within the agency. So as we're looking, if we have to make tough budget decisions, those are really the two criteria that we look at primarily in making those decisions. So again, as the budget projections for next fiscal year, which actually start, in July of 27, become clearer, we'll kind of have a better understanding of what that looks like, and we'll bring more information to you when we can. Those are the only updates that I have for today.
Thank you. Any questions, Jordan?
And I'm just going to say, Hollis isn't able to join us today, but Madison Murphy is online and she'll be providing some updates on his behalf.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jordan. Madison?
Yes, thank you all so much. And Jordan set me up really well because I'm also going to be talking about transition. So one of the initiatives that we're working on is transition planning. So all state agencies have been tasked with planning for the gubernatorial transition. So this is something that the agency is working on. So CDA is beginning to outline how will we ensure continuity of essential operations really at our highest levels. Should there be any vacancies or lack of guidance from governor's office during this transition. So just something that we're going to be working on over the next couple of months as we learn who the new governor is going to be for the state of Colorado. So we'll be keeping the Ag Commission apprised of any updates that we have for the group. And next I have an ask for the group. Later today, John Scott will be coming forward with Ag Commissioner Pepler to be presenting the Pesticide Advisory Committee recommendations, but we have the Hemp Advisory Committee recommendations that we're going to be bringing forward next time. But what I need is one Ag Commission member to help review hemp advisory committee applications between now and the next Ag Commission meeting on September 23rd. So if I can have one volunteer to help review applications between now and September 23rd, if you can let me know. We have a number of seats that are open. I'm looking for one volunteer. And I will connect you with the hemp program manager, that's Brian Coons. And he will walk you through the process to review applications. If I can have
I already got thrown into something this time.
one person. I know a lot of people have been nominated for chair positions and vice chair position, like a number of different roles today. But if there's anyone else who hasn't been, that would be interested. I would say the real,
volunteer.
oh, Simon, thank you so
Yes,
much.
You're welcome. I'll make time. We'll do that.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I will get you in touch with Brian, and we will review those hemp advisory committee applications, and we will be bringing those forward to the group for those appointments at the September 23rd Ag Commission meeting. Thank you so much. Those are my updates for the group.
Okay, is that it, Madison?
That is, thank you all.
Okay, thank you. We're looking at a break, if everybody wants to take a break, and we'll stay on schedule and reconvene at 11:15. All right, thank you. Okay. Okay, we'll reconvene here in commission business. For an action item, the rules and regulations pertaining to the administration and enforcement of the Pesticide Applicators Act 8 CCR 1203-2. John and Wondred.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John Scott, the pesticide section chief with the department. The rules we have before you are for the Pesticide Applicators Act to amend the rule to add the private applicator record keeping into the Private Applicators Act and to address e-notification. I'll say that we had our hearing on June 3rd for the Pesticide Applicators Act. We did not have any comments. We did have support from the industry on the rule. It was noted that we did have on page 41, 6.05, there was one typo that was identified. That was to add a period after the pursuant to 3510-111 of the act, and a period was added from what we originally proposed. So that was caught, and we did make that typographical update. On the private applicator record keeping, this change is being made on July 11th, 2025. USDA rescinded their private applicator record keeping requirements. Ultimately, USDA did this because their funding was cut for support of this program. And since that funding was done away with, ultimately USDA has looked at states that have had the private applicator record keeping requirements incorporated into their own rules. Colorado ourselves, we have for the last, I want to say, I think 15 years or so, since 2007, we incorporated the private applicator record keeping requirements by referring to the USDA's provision in 7 CFR Part 110. But since they rescinded that in July 11th, 2025, we wanted to reincorporate that into the Pesticide Applicators Act to maintain the record keeping for the use of restricted use pesticides. I'll say that the records elements that USDA required remains the same for date, time of application, brand name, EPA registration number, application rate, field ID, location of the treated area, crop commodity, size of treated area, and name and certification of the private applicator. We added one provision, the dilution rate. This is a requirement that we have for our commercial applicators. And the reason being was even under the USDA rule, not actually knowing the dilution rate, you couldn't tell if the product was actually used in accordance with the label directions. So we did want to add that into our rule. And then one other element was the endangered species bulletin. With all of the endangered species changes that are coming down that have come down now, and those endangered species provisions are being added on to pesticide product labels. We've already had this as a requirement for our commercial applicators, that if there's an endangered species bulletin that's in effect for the area being treated, that you maintain that record as well. So we added that as well with our private applicators. So that's in regards to the private applicator record keeping provision. And then in parts 8.03, 9.04, and 10.08, we updated our e-notification provision allowance for written notification. About 10 years ago, we updated the rule for e-notification to allow our commercial applicators, and this only applies to our commercial applicators, that at the time of service that they provide notification of the pesticide product used and any precautionary information. A decade ago, we allowed electronic notification of those requirements. And the rule required that a written request be provided by the commercial applicator's customer. Now, it's 10 years, it's evolved. We've had our industry come back to us, and they've wanted to be able to write this provision into their contracts. And so when their customer signs their contract, they can just opt in at that time to electronic notification, whether that be by text or email. The way we had the rule written before is very specific, that there had to be a separate notification. And so this amendment to each of these parts opens that up, that allows our commercial applicators to be able to now have this provision in their contracts with very specific stated language to notify them that the customer consents to and requests to receive all notices required under Article 10, Title 35, and the rules adopted thereunder at 8 CCR 1203-2 electronically. So that will now allow some additional flexibility for our commercial applicators to be able to write that into their contract. Again, there were no objections or any comments regarding the proposed rules, so. Any questions? That's all I have on the applicators, actually.
Thank you, John. Any questions at this time? For John? For 100? Okay, seeing none, there's a suggested motion. Any discussion needed before a vote? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair. I move that finding these amendments, that we find these amendments necessary and proper to carry out the provisions of the rules and regulations pertaining to the administration and enforcement of the Pesticide Applicators Act. I move that the commission approve amendments to 8 CCR 1203-2.
Okay, motion made by Dr. Weaver. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
Thank you. Second by Harrison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you, John. Thank you, Woodward.
Thank you.
Another action item moving on is the rules pertaining to the administration and enforcement of the Industrial Hemp Regulatory Program Act, 8 CCR 1203-23. Brian? and wondering. Thank you.
Thank you. My name and Wanrad Gabu, Division Director for Plant Industry. And then we have made some change in order to accommodate some of the regulatory to make the program more effective. And then at the same time also we have had a couple of amendments that we want to make in the hemp rule. So that the practice is reflected in our rule, and then at the same time also we have a fee that Brian Kunz, who is the program manager, will go over and then explain what the rationale and the reason. And we have also met with hemp advisory committee meeting, committee members who will be presented with them, and then stakeholders have also participated on the change that's proposed. So Brian will go over all those things.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wanderad, and greetings, Ag Commission. Since we talked last, there still has not been another farm bill passed since 2018, and the department has realized the need to add additional minor changes to reflect experiences by both producers and CDA since federal alignment. These include adding a definition of disposal to clarify how disposal happens, what crops disposal applies to, and requiring a deadline to report did not plant for producers who elect not to plant while their registration is valid. CDA already monitors disposal of negligent hemp that's greater than 1% THC, with staff personnel on site, and now is requiring this in rule. These changes also include reorganizing the requirements for commercial and R&D registrants to reduce redundancy for both types of registrations, and to clarify that CDA has the authority to charge a registration fee for institutions of higher learning. Additionally, these rules provide clarity to the producers on FSA reporting requirements, to include providing CDA with an FSA crop detail report, or FSA 578 for those of you that are familiar with that, a timeline on reporting harvested crops being moved to protect them from weather events while waiting for test results, and to clarify fees and who is responsible for paying them. Namely, that's putting a cap on what CDA can charge for analysis of samples collected by staff. CDA conducted a cost analysis of what certified labs charge and the cost of our own lab to analyze samples. In June, the hemp program presented these rule changes to the Hemp Advisory Committee and included one change based on comments by the committee. This was to extend the did not plant deadline from July 15th to August 1st. This will aid the department with required federal reporting and to plan inspections and sampling. Also in June, CDA held a rulemaking hearing and received no comments at that time or in writing. The hemp program asked that these changes be adopted by the commissioner and to be effective on September 24th. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thank you, Brian. At this time, there's also a suggested motion on HCCR 1203-23.
Mr. Chair, I, David Block, finding that these amendments are necessary and proper to carry out the provisions of the rule pertaining to the administration and enforcement of the Industrial Hemp Regulatory Program Act, I move that the commission approve the amendments to 8 CCR 1203-23.
Thank you. Motion made by David. Do we have a second?
This is Colleen Pepler. I'll second.
Second by Colleen. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. Brian, Wondrich.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Brian. Next on the list is another action item, BAP agenda confirmations. 6 new BAP agents. Dr. Courtney Deal.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Is my sound coming through okay?
Yes. Yes.
Great. Okay. First of all, thank you for the spot on the agenda. We always appreciate consideration by the Ag Commission for our pending BAP agents. The application materials are in the file. Hopefully everybody had a chance to look through that. I'm just here to present these agents as considered. Kyle Pendleton from the city of Sheridan with the Erie Police Department. Julie Martinez is employed as a code compliance officer with the Englewood Police Department. Michaela Krasinski, an animal protection officer with the Boulder County Sheriff's Office. Tyler Spicard, an animal services officer with Broomfield. Ashlyn Floyd, animal control officer with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. Eric Klinger, employed as a park ranger, animal welfare officer since May of 2024 with the Englewood Police Department. I'm happy to take any questions. If not, I will turn this over to the commission for consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dill. Is there any questions at this time?
Mr. Chairman? This is
Yes.
Colleen Pepler. I move that the commission recommend to the Commissioner of Ag the appointment of the candidates listed as presented by Dr. Deal to become agents of the Bureau of Animal Protection.
Thank you for the motion. Do we have a second?
Second. David.
Thank you, David. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Deal.
Thank you very much.
Next on the item is another action item, the Pesticide Advisory Committee appointments. John.
Thank you again. We have 2 appointments for the Pesticide Advisory Committee. The Pesticide Advisory Committee consists of 15 members. The purpose is to advise the commissioner and agricultural or the department on agricultural, human health, environmental, wildlife, worker safety, and other matters in the help in the promulgation of rules. The 2 nominees that we have before the Ag Commission today are Pamela Smith for a registered public applicator. Pamela is currently a member of the advisory committee, so this is a renomination for her position. And the second is Mauricio Tarango for commercial applicators representing the structural pest control industry. The nominees were reviewed by myself and Colleen Pepler. Thank you, Colleen, for agreeing to review the nominations. And we recommend that the Agriculture Commission appoint these 2 representatives to their respective positions.
Okay, thank you, John. Any discussion needed before vote? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Colleen Pepler again. After reviewing the applicants, I move that the commission reappoint Pam Smith and appoint Mauricio Tarango as recommended by the pesticides program.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Seconded. Go ahead.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Second by Dr. Weaver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Moving on to briefings and updates. We have BHA rural outreach, Liz Thompson. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all again. I'm Liz Thomas with the Behavioral Health Administration. My official title is the Agricultural and Rural Program Administrator, primarily bringing outreach materials and mental health, behavioral health resources to farmers and ranchers across Colorado and their rural communities. and then also educating behavioral health providers on agriculture and their uniqueness and how it's different than an urban setting. I first met with you all in November, my first week on the job, so I didn't actually have any updates. But I'm excited to bring some updates of things that we're doing and our collaboration with CDA and what we've done so far since November. So there's quite a few resources that I primarily bring to our rural and ag communities at a bunch of different events like CLA, CCA, 4 States Irrigation Council, things of that sort, ranging from crisis support. I know Chloe does not like that word, but things like 988 Agri-Stress Helpline, and then also intervention programs like CAMP, which provides free therapy to those in agricultural communities and their families, which is a great resource that we've talked about. Hi, Ken.
Make sure that thumbs up was represented in the minutes, please.
Miss working with him at the Farm Service Agency in my previous career. But yes, and then also the COMET training. I know a bunch of the CDA staff has been trained in COMET. Myself is trained in COMET. And COMET is a way, for those that don't know, it's a training from rural communities by rural communities to teach individuals how to check in on their neighbors, but then also have tough conversations around mental health. So it's a free training for anyone that wants to take it. It's about 2 hours and it's incredible. So if you want to bring those to your communities, let myself or Robert or Rosie or Toby know, and we can bring those to your areas. We've been working really closely with some youth organizations in the communities. We've been creating a mental health advocacy club similar to FFA, FBLA, things of that sort, peer-led, student-led, so that they can really get the information about mental health from their peers. I feel like it comes much easier from them than it does from the top down. So working with suggested curriculums.
Future Therapists of America.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe that. But then talking about rural communities specifically, talking about gun violence protection, working within your communities, talking in safe areas, not necessarily different than urban areas, but some of those things that are really specific to rural communities. We're also working with the 988 team to create some bookmarks that we can send to the rural libraries through the Colorado State Library program. They have access to 212 rural libraries. So for September, it's Suicide Awareness Prevention Month. We're creating interactive bookmarks that kids or parents or whoever can color. And then on the back side, it has resources like 988 Agri-Stress Camp and Farm Aid on the back that they can take with them. For those that tend to use the library as their way to connect with individuals. We also include some ag stats that we're sending out with the bookmarks to really kind of get people thinking about mental health and talking about mental health. Some of those are farming and ranching communities have 3.5 times higher suicide rates than the general population. And also within rural communities, about 46% increase in suicide rates in the last 2 decades. Stigma is huge in ag and rural communities. We've talked about that lately, but those are some pretty significant numbers for us to not be talking about them. So to put them out there, I think is a great way to get people involved and just know about that material. Really excited about the outreach items that CDA has put together for the Talk It Out, Don't Tough It Out, to give at outreach events and to our communities at FSA, NRCS, conservation districts, things of that sort. I think that will be a really great way to reach our individuals. Along with those projects, we've done a ton of outreach across the state. Just since January, I've been to over 20 outreach events across the state at a variety of different agricultural and behavioral health conferences. I've given a couple presentations on stress management and resources to the Colorado Livestock Association, also gave one at the 4 States Irrigation Council. We've given some COMET training. CDA, I know, has given their entire staff COMET trainings. And we gave one to the 4 States Irrigation Council between VHA and CDA. 8 of those events have been in conjunction with CDA, either sharing resources or sharing a table. So that's been a great partnership. And I really want to give a shout out to Robert and Rosie Scovering and Marissa. They have been great partners with VHA. They've really been incredible advocates for mental health and reaching our producers. So I really just want to give them a great shout out. Between Department of Ag and the Behavioral Health Administration, we also co-lead a work group. It's called the Agricultural Behavioral Health Practice Work Group is the official title. But we meet monthly with a variety of different individuals, 15 appointed members by Commissioner's Office that range from agricultural, rural, or behavioral health backgrounds. We compile best practices for mental health in ag and rural communities. We discuss barriers, we discuss policy and legislative updates, and we have to provide a report to the governor's office each year talking about how we can close those barriers or suggestions that we have for access to mental health and behavioral health in ag and rural communities. So we're starting to work on that report that we have to submit by December. And then we also put together an Ag Behavioral Health Summit each year. Last year, we had our inaugural summit in Monte Vista. This year, we're planning to do it a little bit more on the Eastern Plains in Fort Morgan. But it's really made for behavioral health providers to learn about agriculture and how to work with those producers. But we also want to include a community aspect and have kind of like a happy hour open area where people from the community can come in and see those behavioral health providers. And then the behavioral health providers can also see ag producers in rural communities in action. Also hoping to do a farm tour or some sort of that. The summit is actually put on by a contractor. This year it is Rocky Mountain Farmers Union, again, through their AgWell program. And they've recently just hired Jacob Walter as their AgWell coordinator, and he is going in full steam. So really excited for that. I really think it's going to be a great event. Let's see here. Oh, also within the work group, Rosie and I have been creating a newsletter to kind of keep people involved within the work group, involved in agriculture and mental health. That's going out quarterly. So we sent out our first one in June, and we're hoping to do our next one in September. So really excited about that small project within such a big area. A couple things upcoming, quite a few ag events that we'll be at to talk about stress management and things of that sort. I'll be giving a presentation in Hayden at the Northwest Family Behavioral Health Summit in August to talk about mental health and agriculture. And then, let's see here. The next one that we're talking about is discussions around camp funding. So the Joint Budget Committee cut the funding for the camp program this last session. We have one more year that VHA provides that to Farm Bureau. Between Farm Bureau, AgriAbility, and VHA, we're trying to figure out how to keep this necessary resource. So we're looking for grants or fundings, or if they're trying to front the cost, whatever that may be. Since it is so utilized and it is such an incredible program, we're doing everything we can to save it. So if any of you have any ideas.
What is the budget for camp?
50,000.
That's it?
Yes.
That's
Okay.
nice.
Yeah. And that provides 350 therapy hours, counseling hours, that's paid for, and then also some of the salary for people at AgriAbility and Farm Bureau that work on the program full time. Ideally, we could increase it to 75, so we could do in-person options. Right now, it's only virtual. So anything we can do to save that program, keep it up and running, and then hopefully expand it as well. It's kind of the idea. So stay tuned on that. We still have it for this next fiscal year. It's not going anywhere anytime soon, and we'll do everything we can to keep it.
What are some of the top foundations that would be good entities to approach?
Briefly talked to 980 about the camp program since they have grants. Farm Bureau is also looking for grants. The RASAP, the Western Regional Rural Assistance Program, they do grants and things like that. They've done some for AgriAbility. They've done some through CSU for research. So RASAP is a big one, 988. And then they were also talking to Representative what's her name? Dusty Johnson, about how they can maybe keep it in the JBC. They didn't cut the program completely. They just changed the wording to say that JBC may appoint money. So it's still possible that next year, the new governor that comes in could say, yes, this is necessary. We'll appoint money towards it, but it's not guaranteed. So we're trying to find backups if we can. Yeah. The last thing that I have for you all is I did set some resources on the back table for you all. There are resources ranging for ag and rural communities. Some of them are mental health, some of them are grant and financial assistance, just resources in general. Please take those back to your communities. I also have digital copies if you want more of those. Camp cards and my business card are also back there. And that is all I have for you. Any questions or comments?
I just want to say thank you, Liz. It's great what you guys are doing. It's excellent. I told Ken he could wave. I wouldn't turn the mic on, but he could wave.
Tell Ken to wait. Thanks, Colin.
I have one other question. Have you teamed up with Aldo and the bilingual team at CDA to be working on outreach?
I have not, but I would love to.
Yeah.
I can get that connection.
Yeah, we'll follow up, and that's a great point, because I wanted to mention two things on fire. So Aldo is working, I mentioned my fire update. I failed to mention that Aldo and his team are working to distribute masks around the state for workers who can't help but work outside during wildfire and the smoke related events. So huge shout out to Aldo and his team for doing that support. And then our mental health partners have been showing up at disaster assistance centers, providing immediate mental health support as fires are ongoing. So let's say you're in an evac zone, you get evacuated from your house and you go to the disaster assistance center, you can have immediate therapy or contact with a mental health provider right there on the spot. You don't have to wait to call. And that has just been, we've gotten input from that from folks who've utilized that service, and it's been a game changer. So just two other elements to response.
This is simply anecdotal, but there's like wildfire defectiveness disorder. What is it? Seasonal affective disorder. Like when we had the 3 weeks of constant hate, I just woke up in a bad mood every day, and I'd get through the day and we weren't in an emergency zone, but God, it made life miserable. Yeah, it was wild, the impacts that it had.
Yeah, and I think when talking with farmers and ranchers, talking about stress management and taking some time for yourself, it's a hard concept to wrap your mind around when there's an emergency or you're in harvest or calving season or whatever it may be. But just taking a literal moment to take to yourself is really important. But then also not holding it in. You can't outgrit grief. You can't outgrit emergency. So I think that's really important to notate.
We've got one more question from Nick.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, so just one quick question. I think everything you're doing is great, and sounds like you're really, really getting some cool outreach events out there. My question for you is, what have you done for kind of the low tech outreach options? I'm thinking even a simple flyer hung up at a sale barn or in co-ops or stuff like that. Have you kind of got some low tech outreach options? And the reason I say that is I think a lot of these folks, these farmers and ranchers that are suffering from depression, they've kind of isolated themselves, or they seem to isolate themselves, and they're not at these group functions or any of these other, and very few of them are on Facebook or any of these other kind of high tech outreach places. But do you have any like a listserv or something where you can kind of blast out some of this stuff and ask some of these places where farmers and ranchers frequent, just to post a simple flyer for some of these things?
Yeah, definitely. And that's one thing I talk about with BHA is a lot of times they're like, oh, we have telemedicine for rural areas. I'm like, my grandpa is a 90-year-old farmer and he still has a flip phone. He doesn't have internet. And that's really common across the way. So we do have flyers. Some of the flyers I have over there, I've sent to Jerry Sonnenberg at the FSA office, Clint Evans and Sally Clark at Rural Development to kind of put in their offices. So that when producers come in, same with like seed dealers and things like that. I haven't talked to them, but I have created a list of like when we go to communities to drop some of that off for them.
I think if you could add sale barns and co-ops and, any of those places, like I know sale barns would be willing to post it up on their bulletin boards, and Lord knows during droughts like these, there's going to be some awfully depressed folks walking out of sale barns. So, cool.
And one of them I know that's really great in that aspect is in Sterling Livestock Exchange with the Sanamaso family. They're really prominent in mental health, and Jason has a podcast that talks about that. But he's had his sale barn as kind of a safe space for people. If they want to come, they can close the door to his office. They can come talk to him specifically. So he's created that, which I think is an incredible model to follow.
Cool.
Bankers when they show up to foreclose.
Yeah. And I've been talking about talking with the Farm Service Agency and their loans, emergency loans, talking to Kim Lacey, their farm chief, about putting in some resources for mental health with loan applications or things of that sort, especially for beginning farmers or those that are just struggling. Yeah. Great. What other questions are there? Great. Well, thanks everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Liz.
Okay, awesome. Well, hello everyone. I am Chloe Rico. I am with the 98 Colorado Mental Health Line. In tandem to what Liz has said is really, yes, we are one of the services that is here in the state. We are continuing to create a more localized service, and by doing that, it requires us to listen to the community. So we were able to talk last night extensively with the folks that joined us at the forum, but really just better understanding where we can better show up, how we can talk about mental health, where the stigma exists, and what is really preventing folks from even reaching out in the first place. So like Liz just shared, the don't talk it out, or talk it out, don't tough it out. That is something we actually got in research. We just got our stigma report back, happy to share it. And the biggest thing that came back was we were able to test phrases when stigma is very prevalent and what might help support that. We talked a lot last night too about like just storytelling, having people talk about mental health openly and be those trusted voices. But don't talk it out, talk it out, don't tough it out. Wow, I need to go the opposite way. It really helps support this conversation around you can still be tough, you can still be strong, and you can still reach out for help. And not seeing that necessarily as a weakness. And so in our stigma research report, it was really important for us to find out two of the biggest barriers. One of them is being a burden, not only to your family and friends, but to your neighbors, to your coworkers, to your employers, your community, and that asking for support is going to put too much on them. And that any of your problems are just like anyone else's. So we learned that in comic training as well, as a lot of people are like, well, wait, I know David's going through something like I'm going through. So like, I'm not going to go to David because like, he knows this is going on. He has other stuff on his plate. He has X, Y, and Z going on. And so really being able to start addressing those barriers, especially in our rural and ag communities. And so what we are doing right now is going on a roadshow. We're at 21 counties. We will hit 27 by the end of August. And it's really talking about what are the strengths of the community, but also where is the stigma most prevalent? Where are people reaching out for support? What does that look like currently? And where do they see opportunities for that to be strengthened? And the other piece of it, not only the burden, was the weakness piece of it. And so really understanding that when communities are describing themselves as resilient, independent, strong, reaching out could be really difficult because they see themselves as this strong force, not only for their communities, for their neighbors, for their family, for their kids. And so really addressing that from the ground up. So happy to share that. It's about 60 pages of stigma reporting, but really understanding not only from that, but also gender dynamics. So when we talk about men, it is specifically that burden, but also that's the weakness. So vulnerability is a weakness. And so really addressing that particularly and really calling it out, using stories to share that. But then for women, it's really the societal expectation to be the caregiver, to keep things together, to keep the schedule together, to keep life together, to keep the home together. And so that caregiving piece of it becomes really important for us in our messaging, and that the way that we're providing support as well. 988 is one of the resources. We do call, text, live chat 24/7. But we're in a network of amazing resources. Harrison shared last night just about camp as well. And so really understanding that we really want people to have a choice when it comes to mental health and, asking for support. And it might start with a neighbor, might start with just sharing. And what we've really seen a lot of value in is we have most people, 56% of our service utilization is from men right now. And that is between the ages of 25 and 39. And it's between 12 and 5 a.m. So when communities are sleeping, neighbors are, hopefully resting. But specifically in the ag community, people might be working, they might be on their tractor. And so really having that conversation around how that support can be in those times when providers aren't available, when pastor might not be available, when the coffee shop's not open, and really being that support. And what we've heard a lot of is that anonymity is everything. Especially in smaller communities when people don't want to know that you maybe are struggling with depression or feel extra, you might feel like a burden. Reaching out to support that is confidential, but also has that person on the other line that can support you can be really helpful. And that you don't have to explain yourself. A lot of people reach out and just want to be heard. They just either are sharing something for the first time, they're sharing something that they've already shared with someone else. And so really being able to create that safe space for folks 24/7. And what we're really realizing is the free and confidential is the beginning of breaking down some of those barriers, because a lot of these services do cost money. Or behavioral health services in general cost money. And so we want to make sure, a great question that came up last night is making sure that people do know that we do care coordination as well. So we are that immediate front door, but then we do have resources if someone does prefer in-person care. And that's why it's really important on the roadshow to learn about what that looks like in communities so that we can continue to build out our database so that people know and can be reminded in a time of need who their local providers might be. And if, a lot of the ministerial alliances have spoken up and said that they would be happy to be that support too. So reminding people that they might see some, their pastor every Sunday in their community every Sunday, but to remind them that the pastor can be that support and has offered their time to be that. So really in a time of need, not everyone is thinking clearly or remembers what resources exist. So, and I think Nick, you asked the question, but we are doing a lot of work, and Liz and I are thinking about a lot of opportunities to get a lot of these resources in those areas that you mentioned, especially the co-ops. We were talking about that on our drive here, but really being intentional about radio spots, obviously, Facebook when it's tech related, but just thinking about where people are getting their information in communities, but making sure that we're also meeting people where they are. Asking people, David and I were talking about this last night in Yuma, reaching out and going to the coffee shop. You can reach a certain, group, but if people aren't going to the coffee shop, you're missing them entirely. So finding opportunities for us to be in those areas, to get, local trusted voices to support in connecting those resources. But also we're working with Coffee Break Project right now as well. And so Hannah has been able to go to the, as she's doing her visits on the farm, including 988 resources, as she's visiting and going to the farms to be able to share those resources and just really tapping into what already exists. That's my presentation. That's all I got. Any questions?
Any questions at this time?
Yes.
Thanks for your presentation last night as well and today. I just was curious because what I was really struck by last night was you explaining that you don't use the word crisis anymore. And I hadn't really thought about that and just because I'm definitely one of those people who doesn't, this isn't a crisis, and I really appreciated Harrison, you sharing your story yesterday. And I was just curious, is it all kinds of services, because like I was thinking about it last night, and like I am the only caregiver for my mother right now who is in the process of dying. And I was like, oh yeah, I have this thing going on, and so I was just curious if, and I'm not gonna say, is that a crisis? Because I know it is after care. But can they also help with that kind of thing of like connecting with larger public health resources, as far as, because one of the things I learned in this whole process with my mother was that, right, hospice has all of these wraparound services as well. And I was just like, gosh, I wonder if people know this. And of course, so all of these things were sort of coming together for me last night. But it's really all sorts of situations that someone can call for, correct? Is that?
Yes, and the top 5 reasons, and I say I want to take back the crisis. When we did the research, like the crisis piece was going to create more barriers. But like in a school setting, crisis is how they define any support that's outside of what the school can help with. Or, in that instance, like they might use that. So I say that more from the, and I know Liz just called me out because but it's more just this education around that crisis does look different for everyone.
Yeah.
And so like when you're in a time, we just don't want that to be one of the barriers where you are then, if you're already feeling the burden, you're already feeling the weakness, that then on top of it, you're like, oh my gosh, like, well, yeah, I'm not the great, I can't be, I've never sought support, or I have, I have sought support, but I'm actually that support for your mom. And so you're supposed to keep it together. And so when I say the crisis piece, obviously that's why we got to the mental health line piece of it. But it is like, that is very self-defined. And so, but to your question, that has been something that we have worked on, like Derek mentioned last night, is it's so important for us to continue to build that and to understand what people are reaching out about and what resources, where gaps we have. Because for us too, the last thing that we want to do is that you reach out and you are looking for caregiving specific support, and that you reach out to an organization that does do that and has that support. Or we have a lot of support groups in the caregiving space, because that is even if it's a parent, even if it's just day-to-day caregiving, for family, or as a caregiver for kids, whatever that might look like, it's caregiving. And so for that, we want to make sure that that resource that we connect you with is a trusted resource. And so if we're sending you to another place and you're having a bad experience, how does that reflect back to us? And so what our work and Derek's work and some of the other folks on our team is really vetting those resources and making sure not only when we're doing the outreach, but that the service has a database that is built on what are we hearing from the community, because each state is different. Some folks even here, like we have data for each of the counties and what people are reaching out about. And it's been really helpful to be like, oh, it's social interpersonal, like stress. Oh, it's 45% anxiety. So then as we build those resources, we know we need to look for more in X, Y, and Z category. And so as we get more information, we're trying to be more data informed in terms of what the help seekers are reaching out about. And I shared this last night, but for those that were not there, it's anxiety, depression, substance use, suicidal ideation, and social stress. And social stress and all those things look very different for a lot of folks. Some people are calling and in an active need related to substance use. Some are calling because they are about to pick something up and they want some support to maybe think differently about that or that decision. And so that is 2 very different things where they might need resources in 2 different areas. And so building on that. So we're excited to see where that grows, but really continuing to understand from our community what that looks like and where we can fill some of those gaps of resources. So thanks for the question.
Thank you.
One question on stigma.
Yes.
How do you measure, what's your metrics of success for understanding if your campaign to destigmatize mental health is working?
It's a great question, and we are still actively in those conversations because it looks very, now that we have this whole report and you all, once you are able to see it, it really, there's so many different levels of like relating and like qualitative and quantitative in terms of like where are we seeing it based in different audiences. Also, a lot of people are like, oh, well, we also, as we build awareness, are we also, a lot of like Michael Bennett wrote like, oh, we're in a mental health crisis because a lot of people are reaching out. And so for us, it's how do you use the utilization data to actually support that the awareness data. We were at 5% awareness, now we're at 13. So it really is kind of a mix of how the help seekers are being
helped and what they're looking for and how, you know, what those conversations are and kind of from our contact center for the stigma, and are they calling and saying those things, and what kind of identifying information are they giving to say, oh, I thought this was, you know, we've had people reach out and be like, oh my gosh, I thought support was, you know, I thought reaching out was a sign of weakness, like truly saying those words. And so some of it's anecdotal, but our data team is actually putting together, we just got this report last week, so putting together a comprehensive understanding of like how we would then track that. So we'd be happy to share back, but it's a big, you know, because stigma, you can destigmatize, but like people are like, well, when we get rid of stigma, and I'm like, it's always going to exist in just different varying forms. But I think just making sure that we are continuing to see utilization go up too. I think that's a huge piece of it. But to not steer in the way of that, it's signaling a mental health crisis, building awareness and comfortability too. So, yeah, if you all have any ideas, open to them as well. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, before we move into lunch break, Colleen, if you don't mind giving your update, we'll fit it in now, ma'am.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Kate. I apologize standing between you all and your lunch, but I'm in Iowa and I'm being an Uber for 2 6-year-old twins. And so I may have to sign off a little bit early. I'll try to stay on. I'm in Central Time, so I'm an hour ahead of you all. But anyway, I wanted to give my update a little bit. Kent and I are out here. When we drove out here, it was amazing the change of the landscape that we saw on the way out here. We saw corn and soybeans. Corn as tall as you can see, and soybeans beautiful, and we'll see soybeans and corn on the way home. So, but in conjunction with what we're seeing at home is a lot of drought, a lot of change. Like Nick, no, I think was it Jeff or Nick or Jeff was talking about, or no, Riley. Not a lot of corn around the Front Range this year. A crop that a lot of people are choosing to put down is sorghum for crop cover and probably for insurance purposes. So, and where the corn is good, it's because that's where the farmer chose to use the water that they've been allocated, that they can have. So, you know, it's what everybody else is talking about. It's a dire thing. Didn't see a whole lot of wheat, and wheat that we did see didn't do very well at all. So that's kind of heartbreaking for me, being a wheat grower since a small child. So more positive news on some of the things I've been doing. I had a real fun experience doing a YouTube video with Chef Jason Morris. He is sponsored by ACE, and I did a safety video on food cooking, and right before the 4th of July, and I did a fun fact about Colorado Department of Ag. So if you want to know what I said about Colorado Department of Ag, make sure you check out that YouTube video. I was on a panel for Colorado Ag in the Classroom when they did their teacher workshops, shared that information with several teachers and different. We actually had 2 congresswomen on the tour as well. So that was a good thing to talk to them about agriculture. So did that. One other point I did want to, as I was listening to Liz and your other guests speak, I wonder if we need to be tapping into auctioneers and real estate people as well, and helping them to understand about what these farmers are going through when there's a possibility of them deciding that they need to sell. Just in our area, in the last month, we are aware of 3 longtime farmers who have been leasing out ground, have been told that next year that land will not be available for leasing because people are selling it for real estate and housing development. So that's been a real shock in our community, because it's a couple of the farmers are people that Kent's grown up with and everything. So that's kind of heartening for them to find out that they won't have those acreages for the next year. So I don't know if that's an area to tap that hasn't been tapped or not, but something to think about, maybe working with them to help them get through with the agriculture. I guess the final thing that we're really excited about in my family is the Ruach Gai Pepler Pockner Farms are going to be honored at the Centennial Farm celebration this year at the State Fair. So that's exciting. 19 members of my family will be there to accept that award. Again, thank you for letting me go early and interrupt your lunch just a few minutes. I'm hoping soon that this adoption will be final and I'll be able to share pictures of these little kiddos that I've been talking about for the last year and a half. So good to see you all. I look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you.
Well, it's 10 after 12. Is lunch ready or it is ready? So we might as well. Okay, so it's 12:10. We'll reconvene at 1 p.m. Is that fine? Or 12:55? Okay, let's do it. Okay, let's reconvene at 12:50. All right? Thank you.
Well, I was gonna say, if I stay.
And lunch is right outside.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna reconvene here and before we get started on the rulemaking briefing, you want to go ahead and mention
Yeah, I just,
about that?
yeah, before we jumped in, we have two, again, it's gift day for the Ag Commission. So we have two additional items for the Ag Commissioners here. And for those of you on the phone, we'll be getting these to you after the fact. And I see Robert Sakata is calling in from the road, so I'm going to ask him to update you on the second item. But the first one is another hat for another program at CDA. This is for the Yo Soy de Rancho program in our ICS division led by Aldo Parra. And Yo Soy de Rancho is an inaugural program that we just completed the first year. And it's a business training program for ag workers who are looking to start their own businesses. And so Aldo and his team have partnered with partners across the state in ag business and financing, in land access, in regulatory training, et cetera, with Mark and Dan who are here to train 20 folks in basically building a business plan and what it will take to become a business owner in agriculture. So rep this hat proudly. It's been an amazing first year of the program. Very excited for year two. Aldo just briefed the governor in person last week on this program and just got rave reviews from the governor on what the team has been doing. So just wear this out and share the story about the opportunity and connect anyone interested to Aldo and his team who might want to join the training down the road. The second item that you have, we haven't talked about, are these clothespins with your names on them.
Is there an actual thing?
Robert, are you in a place where you have enough cell service to tell us what these are all about?
Hi, guys. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yes, hello, Robert.
Perfect. Thanks. Well, I'm on the road, so I won't turn on my camera. Just leaving the WASDA meeting at Flagstaff. So the clothespins are just for my appreciation for all of your support while I was serving as acting commissioner of ag. And the story behind that is it's an old trick that I've learned from somebody where when I'm driving or when I'm working out in the field, I get a little tired. You clip it to your earlobe, and you won't notice very much pain at first, but just leave it there, and the pain continues to get stronger and stronger. So.
That's good.
There are a lot of clothespins on earlobes right now, Robert.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this what the kind of recommendations we're gonna get if we call 988?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks, Chair, for introducing us.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, moving on, rulemaking briefing for the rules of commercial feed under the Colorado Feed Law, HCCR 1202-6, and rules for pet food under the Colorado Feed Law, HCCR -1202-7. Daniel and Mark, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark Gallegos. I'm the Division Director for the Inspection and Consumer Services Division. With me today is Dan Zagari, who will be doing the presentation of the proposed rule. Also online is Scott Zier, who's our Program Manager for the feed program, and he will be happy to answer any technical questions that you might have. And then, yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Thank you. Good to see you all again.
Can you hear me online all right? Perfect. All right, so the commercial feed program is proposing several amendments to the state commercial feed and pet food rules. That's 8 CCR 1202-6 and 1202-7 respectively. The amendments include updating the references in both rules from the 2022 version to the 2026 version of the official publication of Association of American Feed Control Officials, otherwise known as AFCO. We are proposing incorporating by reference in both rules the federal rules pertaining to good manufacturing practices found in 21 CFR Part 507 and 21 CFR Part 558.6, and the federal rules pertaining to bovine spongiform encephalopathies, that's BSE, that's found in 21 CFR Part 589.2000 and .2001. We're also proposing adopting the AFCO pet food label modernization labeling requirements in Rule 1202-7, which are the pet food rules, to be phased in by 2030. We have an amendment to remove the prohibition on the use of ingredients with a tentative definition status from Commercial Feed Rule 8 CCR 1202-6. And the last thing is clarifying in the pet food rule that all Shiga toxin producing E. coli are adulterants. These amendments are necessary to ensure that animal feed and pet food manufactured in and sold in Colorado are safe for both animals and humans, and to ensure uniformity with regulations in other states and at the federal level. I do have further clarification documents of these proposed changes that we've made that I can pass out to y'all, and I can get to people online as well. It just further goes into the amendments that we proposed and gives you a little more background on what it is and why we're doing it. So I'll get those to you here in a minute. We've been doing a lot of outreach with this because there's a lot going on. And so our outreach efforts have included contacting all of our registrants with the commercial feed program and additional stakeholders outside of our licensed commercial feed program people to get their feedback on these changes. And then we've also held a virtual town hall where we had, I think it was around 80 some people that confirmed they would come, and we had around 60 that showed up. We had one question, and most of the feedback that we've gotten has been pretty positive to these changes. So following the rulemaking process, the rulemaking hearing regarding these proposed changes to the commercial feed and pet food rules will be held on July 30th, 2026. All are welcome to attend, and the notice can be found at the top of the proposed red line rules in your packet. Thank you for considering these requested amendments to the commercial feed and pet food rules.
Thank you, Daniel. Any other questions for Daniel, Mark, or Scott online?
Yes.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next rulemaking briefing. We have rules pertaining to the administration and enforcement of the Produce Safety Act 8 CCR-12-02-17. Daniel? It's going if they're on.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. So Dwayne Senning is joining us today. He is our program manager for the Produce Safety Program. Since I'm here in person, I will be reading the rule for us. So I want to thank you all again for allowing us time to address these proposed changes to the Produce Safety Rule. So the Produce Safety Program is seeking changes to the state Produce Safety Rule. The purpose of the rule change is to increase the threshold limit for farms exempt from the rule. The increased limits allow the exempt status are consistent with the FDA's annual adjusted for inflation calculations. The proposed change would increase the value from $33,297 to $34,324 and include sales in years 2023, 2024, and 2025. The change would affect the registration for the growing period of January 1 to December 31, 2027. Growers of covered produce whose sales exceed this threshold are required to register annually with the program. The proposed language would read as follows.
Part 3.5. For the 2027 registration year of January 1, 2027 to December 31, 2027, a farm that sold an average monetary value of produce during 2023, 2024, and 2025 with more than $34,324 must register with the department. This change is the maximum allowable by the FDA for the produce safety rule. Following the rulemaking process, the rulemaking hearing regarding proposed changes to the produce safety rule will be held on July 30th, 2026. All are welcome to attend, and the notice can be found at the top of your red line rule in your packet. Thank you again for your time, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions at this time for Dwayne or Daniel? Okay, seeing none, thank you. We'll move on to the next item. ICS Ag and Weights and Measure fee increases. Mark.
Yes, yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Mark Gallegos. I just want to bring to your attention that we'll be coming to you with a request to approve some proposed fee increases. So right now we'll be discussing the AID program and mentioning the Weights and Measures program as well. So these two programs are going to be requesting fee increases in relationship to the rate of inflation. And the increases will really range between 2.5% to 5.2% overall. These requests will represent inflationary increases, like I stated, rounded to the nearest dollar to ensure the continued funding of the programs. The fee increase request will affect fiscal year 27. Justification for these fee increases, the programs face significant cost drivers, primarily rising personnel expenses, which have correlating para increases expenses as well. Additionally, the division has encountered ongoing increase of insurance costs, OIT, Office of Information Technology payments, and vehicle expenses have raised quite a bit as well. So without the adjustments, the programs lack the resources to fill their statutory obligations, which would include on the egg dealer side, properly licensing egg dealers and people that need to have their scales licensed, ensuring shell eggs are properly handled and labeled, and also ensure compliance with the Colorado cage-free law. In addition to that, we have tried to mitigate, and we are continuing to work on mitigating these financial pressures. Three things that we are working on is staff optimization. So we're working on increased the allocation of staff to federal money as well as we're able to offset some of these expenses. We're working on operational efficiency, enhanced planning and tracking systems. That now allow inspectors to balance responsibilities across all of our programs, really working on more comprehensive inspections when they're out there doing their inspections. And we're also working on structural reorganization within our division, where we're combining program resources. Specifically, the egg program has been combined with our custom meat and produce safety programs to create a food safety comprehensive program so that we can operate efficiently, because those inspections really operate in a similar manner. While the rounded inflationary increase is vital for the program's sustainability, we're still projecting a deficit in the two programs over the next fiscal year. Again, we're going to be focusing on efficiencies primarily to make up that deficit. However, the adjustment is a critical step in maintaining the integrity of the commercial egg standards and the Weights and Measures programs. We have conducted stakeholder outreach and engagement, and we're expecting to finish with the egg stakeholder outreach and engagement this week. And we primarily received positive feedback, and people understand what we're trying to do. Once that's completed, we'll be again coming back at the next Ag Commission meeting, requesting your approval of the fee increase, and provide, any additional information that you may request before then. And I'm happy to discuss any questions you may have regarding these fee increases.
I'd just like to make a quick point if I can.
Yeah.
So as Mark just described, we don't do fee increases without looking internally to see how we can improve efficiency, because we take fee increases, even just inflationary ones, seriously, because they're money on you guys, right? And on our community. So to Mark's point, the fact that the team is looking at increased business efficiencies, how we do more efficient inspections, that is part of our holistic approach to fee increases. So I just want you all to have faith in our commitment to that and appreciate and applaud Mark and Dan and your teams for taking a keen eye, even when expenses such as in this case are out of our control. You know, pay increases for state staff out of our control. We're glad to see them, but they put pressure on cash funds. So even when the expense increases out of our hands, we're still going to take a look at how we run business to make sure we're as efficient as possible for you guys and to keep these steady. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mark.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Moving on to rulemaking briefing, rules pertaining to public livestock markets. And Dr. Martin McCarty is on. Okay, hello.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you see me and hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good afternoon to the commission and guests. I'm Dr. Morgan McCarty. I'm the CDA Field Veterinary Medical Officer for the Western Slope region. Just so you guys know, this will be a very quick briefing on 1201.13, the Public Livestock Markets Veterinary Inspection Rule. Also, please note the public hearing for this rule will be held via Zoom on August 6th at 2 p.m. If you are able to, we encourage you to attend this public hearing. So this rule review is part of the state's 5-year regulatory review process. A committee of CDA and USDA staff were convened to draft proposed changes to this rule. The proposed changes were then sent to multiple stakeholders for further edits and suggestions. And while some stakeholders asked some clarifying questions, no edits or suggestions were made at that time from our stakeholders. The majority of the changes that we made in this rule or suggested were clarification of wording and definitions. I'm definitely happy to review the changes in detail if the commission would prefer, but they are very short changes and are available in the statement of basis and purpose. So that is what I have for the commission on 1201.13.
Thank you. Any questions at this time? For Dr. McCarty? Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Next on the item is rulemaking briefing for rules pertaining to the Small Food Business Recovery and Resiliency Tax Credit, ACCR 1204-10. Mickey Davis.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good afternoon. My name is Mickey Davis. I'm the program manager for the Community Food Access Program. And in this past legislative session, a bill was passed that makes some fairly substantial changes to our tax credit program. So these rules are a way of putting those into effect. So as Dr. Morgan mentioned, we also have a public comment hearing on August 20th from 1 to 2 p.m. It will be on Zoom, and everyone's welcome to attend. So as I mentioned, the changes, so we're putting some rules into place that help further define a lot of the new terms that are included in the new bill. So the majority of the modifications to this rule are in the definitions section. We spent a lot of time gathering stakeholder feedback. We have a lot of engaged stakeholders with this program, which is wonderful. We also are taking this opportunity to redefine or to create a definition for elements of our program that didn't previously have one. So terms like healthy foods, not healthy foods, independent, and equipment, we really have been working a lot in this program to find ways to further clarify and make this program efficient and effective. And there are definitely some terms that we took this rulemaking opportunity to further clarify. The rule also, let's see, I'm happy to discuss any changes that you like and get further in depth. But yeah, the legislation also removed the requirement to have a letter of eligibility for this program, so that's been struck. Extended the period of time that we have to review applications. So happy to answer any questions about the proposed changes we've made to this rule. And again, we welcome your attendance at the public hearing on August 20th.
Okay, thank you, Mickey. Any questions at this time pertaining to the small food business recovery? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Thank you for your time. Well, it looks like we're moving into commission member updates. We have any takers? Okay, there you go. I like that. So I can run and go left and then we'll go on live. Okay, let's do this.
I'm Amanda.
Go ahead.
My update is that it's dry and hot and trying to field questions from the community about goats grazing in parks and how well they survive in 100+ degree weather, and lots of conversations about water and shade. So other than that, trying to grow a few things, but not having very much success this summer. So thanks.
Thank you.
Gosh. Welcome to Delta County. Thank you, everybody. I'd like to report that the most recent Ag Commission meeting was hosted in Delta County. And much the fanfare of locals. No, things are maybe slightly better than we thought they were going to be this spring from a water point of view, though still on the dire side of things. Many people have lost water already. Others are about to. A small handful will continue to have water later into the summer. But from the different ditches that I've spoken with, there's people are already being ratcheted down considerably or being turned off soon if they haven't been turned off already. Similarly, I think domestic water systems are looking anxiously towards what it's going to mean to have the loss of irrigation water. It's easy for regardless of the source, domestic water use goes up considerably when irrigation water shuts off because people are suddenly watering their lawn or their garden or whatever, their flower bed with domestic water now that the irrigation waters and those resources are finite. So that'll be, I think we will, depending on what the weather does, we'll see some interesting and challenging situations arise around that moving forward or for the rest of the season. Just from a general fruit update, it seems like everyone I talked to in Palisade is oversold and demand is high, and there's it's if you figure we represented about 10% of the crop and they themselves lost 10 to 20% of the crop, that puts the state at about a 70% peach crop, which means that hopefully we're not disappointing too many buyers and all the growers that have fruit are not overly stressed about having to tell people no, they can't supply because I think there's a lot of demand out there this year, particularly in relation to the supply. One thing, and I've mentioned it before in Ag Commission, that I think many of us who are apple growers are concerned with, and even peach growers to a certain extent, is the MM and LLPP the school food purchasing. Yeah. And that this was our year to really shine when it came to supplying schools with produce from over here, and with it being either non-existent or unavailable, wanting to make sure that lawmakers know that this was a fluke, a bad fluke, and that the program should continue to stand on its feet. Last but not least, Representative Hurd is going to be coming out to visit Paonia Reservoir on the 27th of July. We're engaging with his office to take very seriously the sedimentation issue in the reservoir, and hope that a visit from him, as well as ongoing diligence from his staff with the BOR, is gonna create some forward progress on the reservoir.
Can I mention, a lot of us are driving back that way?
Sure.
So maybe just mention where to look out for and what to look out for. It's
Sure.
probably pretty obvious. But.
Yeah, so you'll drive by Paonia Reservoir, and it should be getting low enough at this point. We anticipate having water for about a week more, but it should be pretty low at this point, and you'll see what the sedimentation is. And we've had some really good conversations with the BOR about the sedimentation issue. And just for reference, the Paonia Reservoir was technically owned by the Bureau of Rec. Technically, the ownership, the borrower and the eventual owner will be the North Fork Water Conservancy District, and the operations and management of the canal is the Fire Mountain Canal and Reservoir Company. So there's a lot of players involved in this. The Fire Mountain Canal and Reservoir Company is the entity that benefits the most from it, but we maintain the flow in the river for all the irrigation companies as flows begin to decline. So it really is a crucial resource across the board for irrigation for small ditches across the North Fork. So so it's a big deal. We are just unfortunately in a situation where normal dredging operations that you might see in other regions aren't going to work here because of the canyon that it's built in, because of access for lack of access for dredged material to go, and myriad other challenges, lack of power to run a dredger, all sorts of things. So and a fragile river system that we don't want to destroy by inundating with sediment. So there's a lot of moving pieces there, but it's a crucial piece of infrastructure for the economic vitality of this area. So anyways, you'll drive past it, you'll see what I mean. We've been in irrigation company magazine, or like association magazines, as like the poster child for sedimentation. It's bad. It's really bad. So you'll see that, but hopefully Hurd's office is engaging with us. And at this point, the conversation is, we'll find through the River District, as well as I think some money potentially from the state, we'll find enough money to sort of pilot a dredge program, and then that should hopefully get us a runway to start figuring out what it'll cost to maintain that on an ongoing basis. So that will likely come through an increase in assessment fees for water users, as well as probably an increase in hopefully an increased mill from the Conservancy District that would help pay for it, and then ideally some taxpayer dollars beyond that, but we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see. So anyways, that's the news. It's exciting to hear that Congress is, a representative is gonna sort of become our champion, and hope that it proceeds. So that's the news from here. And there's still no fruit here. There's one farm that has fruit here. Oh, that's right. You could go to RMF. They have fruit. Anyways, we have one farm with fruit here. And they're out in Dominguez Canyon. As you're heading out towards Palisade, they're the one group that ended up with anything. So
Wow.
All right, that's me.
Thank you, Harrison.
Well, out in Yuma, I apologize. Last time I could hear you guys, but evidently I couldn't talk to you guys. So technology sometimes. Been an interesting year out there. This is the first time ever, I've never harvested in our family farm, never harvested wheat. It was there, came up really good last fall, but it's just been so dry. We had some late cold freezes. So with that being said, between the drought and late freeze, there wasn't any grain in the plant. So very, very few acres got harvested for wheat out there. And what it did was very, very low yield. Some of the guys were disappointed they even harvested because they spent more on fuel and shipping than there was a crop out there. We did fortunately start getting some rains in June, which was late enough that it didn't help the wheat, but kind of got the pastures started somewhat. They were very dry, still are dry, but also got the dryland corn, dryland wheat, dryland milo crops to a fairly good start. However, since then, everything's shut off again. Sounds like there's a chance of some rain this week, but small amounts. So we'll see how that goes because it's coming up to a critical stage on the corn and milo too. They're starting their pollination stages. So that will remain to be seen on that. Obviously taxing the irrigation that we do have, trying to keep everything going there and things like that. And believe it or not, when we did get some rain, we also had some devastating hail come through and high wind storms. So there was a lot of straight line winds doing some damage with sprinklers and various tree windbreaks, etc. The hail came in and completely decimated. Even personally had some edible beans, just totaled them out. They were within just a few days of starting to really come on there as well. And the corn, some of the corn got bruised and green snapped with the wind. Sugar beets got some defoliation as well, but fortunately with them, they will shoot new leaves and come back. However, it is going to hurt their yields in the end on sugar and the tonnage, but at least they will continue to grow. Still pretty concerned about prices. I mean, that's a broken record with me and in the ag sectors. It seems like parts are still way high, hard to get parts sometimes. We never have changed this, or the supply hasn't come back and prices haven't come down as much as they should have there. Fertilizer and chemicals, we've seen a little bit of reduction in fertilizer prices in the last 2 or 3 weeks. But then now with these wars going on again, we're starting to see the spikes in the prices of fertilizer again and chemicals. Obviously, as you all know, too, fuels, gas and diesel's going back up here again, too.
I should have included that in mine. It's terrible. It's god awful out there. It really, yeah, anyway, sorry, back to you.
Yeah, no. Another thing with the kind of a lot of concern with CDOT, I know that doesn't have anything to do with Colorado Department of Ag, but that's kind of a broken record there too. The road repairs are just next to bare minimums, but there's a lot of potholes, etc. But the taxpayers and everybody, they're starting to get have to have a lot of repairs to their vehicles because it is, it's knocking out alignments. Some people are actually blowing tires if they hit a hole just right or something. I mean, so there's a lot of excessive repairs, not only to the vehicles and things like that, but I know CDOT says they're out of money, but sometimes they'll come out, they'll patch a couple real bad holes, I guess, if that's their minimum maintenance they have or something, but that'll work for a while. And then, a few weeks later, here you go again. I think that's covering things. The good news out there right now is the cattle prices are good. As Riley had mentioned there earlier, there's a lot of cutting back in the cattle because of the forage being low in the pastures. We're a little more fortunate our way than they are to the southeast, but cattle prices are good. a lot of cattle. A lot of sale barns, sometimes have summer, summer vacations, if you will, or breaks. So they can work on their facilities and things. Some of them have to cut those like in half because there is such a demand for the sales that cattle are still coming to market. Other than that, I think that's covering pretty well everything our way.
Thank you, David. We'll move on down the line. I'll start off with cattle. We did have to dip into our commodity and sell a couple loads due to the fact of our permit ground wasn't producing. So we took the hit up front, two-edged sword. You don't want to get rid of your higher commodity, but at the same time, it brought in revenue. So that helped in that sense, but we can regain those numbers as years progress. But they brought a high price in out of Nebraska. And to the cattle management department, they take really good care and have a good herd for bow and arrow, so that helps. Bow and arrow brand, they weren't affected this year so far as job retention. But Farm and Ranch, this drought has affected employment, and that's the hardest part. To have to let people go because you don't have the revenue, but they're on job attached. So that's one good thing to see what moves on forward. Most of the employees are on 32 hours a week, so they can keep their benefit packages. That's just what we have to do moving forward. It's the same as 21, a little better. The only thing is, if I go back to the water issue, we ended up with 1,800 acre feet of our project water, but then we've been able to double our water because we've been able to lease shares. And that's put us up over closer to 5,000 acre feet, which puts us at about 20% for the year. A lot better than we thought in April, being able to move into August. And most of the full service farmers are out of water. MVIC is going to lose water probably the middle of next month. And we're hopeful to keep our water running since we're at about 45% of our water left into middle of September. So that's a plus because we wouldn't have thought we'd be in this position in April, being going into July. But bow and arrows keeping the same boutique customers. We've had to release all of our high volume corn. We grew 80 acres of blue. That's it this year. So we're going to keep that alive. Our hay went from 2,600 acres to 850, thinking one cutting. And we're gonna get 3 and possibly 4 if some more water is released our direction. So that's a plus as far as revenue. On the irrigation end, we've got a couple leaks on our canal. And I was talking to Harrison, and it's unusual, 30 years and we had 2 leaks. So we're gonna have to figure out how to go in and put a liner in at the same time, keep water in the canal through the winter for the cattle. So it's gonna be interesting to see how you fix a canal when that's your only water for the cattle to keep through the remainder of the year. But I think it's just something that we're gonna have to work ourselves through that process.
Simon, have you found any liners, sort of more modern liner
We have.
products that you think are interesting?
Yeah,
and
we
exciting?
have. I'll send that to you.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know.
We'll do that because the areas they came in and in 4 days, they had one fixed and the weather was 100 plus every day. So within that time frame, they had a complete break and they were able to put it back together on a quick repair.
Yeah.
And then the second one came, we've got 3 right now. So they got them back to, we could run our 23 CFS. If we were at 100, there's no way they would have held.
Yeah.
But now we're just maintaining to finish the year out and then go back in and put a liner. But they have pretty good liners out there now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they like a concrete embedded or like a
No, just a
normal
Yeah,
polymer liner?
yeah.
Okay, interesting.
And what we found in one area is we put a liner in, but the water went under the liner, bubbled up and coming out
Yeah.
on the bottom. So they didn't put a good base on the front side and it just found its way through, and water will find anywhere.
Well, that's the hard part.
That's the hard, it'll find something.
You see the leak and you don't know whether it's from here or whether it's from
Other areas.
300 feet
Yeah.
upstream or 300 feet downstream. Yeah, totally.
So we'll be fixing a couple of areas on the canal. I think the big push on our end will be this Red Arrow Regulatory Reservoir on the end of the canal. We have the engineering design money and it'll have floating solar panels and then also light. And that's something that'll help in a year like this, and it'll hold about 1,500 acre feet of water for years like this. So as we progress forward and find the funding to put something like that in, I think the reservation, the tribe itself would be able to utilize that years to come. Kind of a strategic plan moving forward is the reservoir. The micro hydros are going really well, as far as having all of them in and installed by June of 2027. So that's gone real well as far as all that. That takes over from having the water we don't have, but a lot of the crew are the helpers for the millwrights, helpers for the electricians, setting the pads, compressors and everything. So the work's been able to stay in-house and the people have the expertise to be able to do that now that we're slow on the ag end, for one. On a personal note, I was Marissa, you had asked earlier about different family gatherings. We all met over the 4th at Newport Beach, and I'd never been in a youth takeover on TikTok. And as we were there for the weekend, sure it was a 4th of July weekend, but there was thousands that came in from the Phoenix area. And we were celebrating our grandson's 16th birthday. Lo and behold, he might have known, but we stayed out of the area, but they had a local and national news of a youth takeover at Newport Beach. And we had stayed away from the beach itself, but they had closed all the roads down, brought in police on horseback, and they were shooting fireworks at the cars. And my daughter went out to pick up our vehicle, which says, I'm not gonna mess with it, I'll leave it there. And it was down on the beach. And it took her 6 hours to go about 2 miles. And they had shut it all down. Well, they had it planned, and I'm not a TikTok user, but I guess word was on the street that all the youth was gonna meet at Newport Beach, and it was a youth takeover at the beach, and it was thousands. There was 435 arrests within a few hours. So we were from a distance watching the fireworks, and we're like, you know what, let's not go on the 4th. Any beach activity, we'll wait to go another time, but it's amazing how technology can bring all these people together in a short amount of time. But other than that, we're gonna hang in there. It's already August. Water's still an issue, and the hard part was this year was having to let individuals go that you don't want, because you never know if you're gonna be able to get them back and times get better. But our only hope is less hours will keep their benefit packages and make it through the year. That's about it on that. Let's see. Nick and Colleen.
Well, I'll just add to the drought pity party. It's and honestly, we operate on 3 different properties. The big one that we operate on east of Denver, we've fared better than most. We're certainly hitting drought triggers and rainfall triggers, but we've grown some forage. So from what I've seen out in the country, we're at least on this ranch, we're doing better than most, or several areas around the state. Unfortunately, our family ranch in southeastern Colorado is completely droughted out. We've still got cows, but it's comparable to the range conditions that we saw in 2002, which is really scary because we lost a lot of grass. Grass species just completely died out in that drought. So, that's pretty discouraging. And even more discouraging is we just implemented virtual fence on that ranch and collared the cows out there, and it's working famously and have all this amazing technology, but as it turns out, technology doesn't make it rain, and unfortunately, no amount of grazing management's going to overcome about 20% of our average precipitation down there. So not looking forward to destocking down there, but I don't know, maybe this monsoon will kick in and save us all, but it's not looking good. On that note, just like to, I was sorry I missed the presentation on all the mental health work that's going on. Boy, I think that's, if not the most important thing that CDA is working on right now. And it's probably going to be needed a lot with the number of folks that I know that are liquidating, generation long cow herds. That mental health work that CDA folks are working on is going to be pretty darn important here in the next couple of years. Other than that, kids are Fair Week is next week, so we're in full fledged here. It's our first year in 4-H, so we're in chaos mode around here, trying to get everybody's animals where they're supposed to be and learning the ropes of Fair Week. So pretty excited about that. I'll have a full update and hopefully some blue ribbons to show off at next meeting. So sorry I didn't get to see you all in person, and hopefully next trip.
And thank you, Nick. I think that's it. Colleen went earlier.
Sure you did.
Okay, as far as any discussion or final comments that we want to discuss?
Just for, you guys don't have to, but at some point, I would love to have a rule breaking hearing. Just putting it out there.
Make it a rule break.
Right here.
Oh, rule break. You don't have to have a hearing for that.
Really, your face was pretty awesome.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Especially Billy.
I thought he wanted a rule making meeting.
That's what I thought at first.
An hour talking about rulemaking. I thought, oh boy, Kate and I got a lot of work to do to get that done.
I just have a question or comment, I guess. Been talking about transitions. We're gonna obviously, have the governor transition. Is there things that we can talk about, or what do we do as CDA? How are we transitioning? What is that process? Or, we know, we don't know who it is yet because we haven't had the election, but just curious how that changes things, and or how much time we put into it and things like that.
Yeah. I'm looking at Jordan because he's been through many transitions.
Go ahead and then I'll chime in.
So I think bottom line is it's mainly status quo for the vast majority of folks, including the Ag Commission. I think you will keep doing your business as usual through the transition. Your terms continue along the lines of what your terms are. So 27, 29, whatever the appointment timelines are, that will not change with a transition of governorship. What is subject to change are people in positions like me, and a few other positions who, sometimes change with the new governor, sometimes don't. That'll be up to the new governor. So as we know more about that, we'll be in communication. And as Madison mentioned earlier, we're working on just a continuity of operations game plan for the department, which is, again, for 99% of our staff, status quo, just keep doing what you're doing. And but it's really like, if you're not getting direction from the new governor, or there's a gap in leadership, how to make sure that the business operations of the department stay status quo for our customers. I'd say that's the bottom line, but really nothing beyond that for the commission to consider, unless I'm missing something.
No, I mean, this will be my fourth administration that I've worked for in state government. And it really is that. It's for the vast majority of programs, vast majority of staff. Things just continue on as normal. With that said, I mean, it obviously brings up a little bit of anxiety for everybody because there's always a little bit of unknowns. But really there's no need for that. Again, the vast majority of the staff are, classified staff. They don't change throughout from administration to administration. And, obviously kind of big picture priorities for governors do change a bit. And that's yet to be seen, but I think a lot of the work that we've done over the last 7 to 8 years, a lot of that is rooted in what the community's asked for, and there's been legislation behind it, and so a lot of that is really institutionalized, and it's not things that just go away overnight. All of these things kind of take time, and it's just the evolution of the agency and how we move forward. And I think it's actually kind of exciting. It's a good opportunity to kind of revisit everything that we've been doing, but
Should we anticipate any interaction with the new governor when they step in the beginning, or do we just kind of keep doing our thing?
You'll just keep doing your thing, and as your staff will, keep setting up the meetings and doing all of that. Obviously, when the new administration comes in, it'll be kind of up to them. Whoever's commissioner at that time, obviously, then they'll have a big role in that as well.
Yeah. So is it like December 31st, you've got your stuff in a box? And then
December 11th, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what that will look like for cabinet members. I think we're gonna understand more after the general election. Sure. What the exact transition timeline, looks like. So again, we'll communicate whatever we know, and we know it to the board. To the
Yeah,
commission.
and just speaking from experience in the past, I've worked for agencies where, there's been a change in executive directors or cabinet level positions, and I've also worked for administration or for departments where it stayed. So even that, that's not a given. Nothing's really a given in this process. It's really going to be up to whoever's elected governor to kind of figure out their path forward.
Okay, any other?
Thanks for all the book and the swag,
Yeah, so
all the stuff.
there's
Many hats to wear, literally.
Literally, yes, uh-huh,
And thanks to these two for
yes.
setting everything
Yeah,
up.
thank
Yes, thank you.
It's been fantastic.
Mhm.
Very nice. Now, do we need to have a vote to close?
When your agenda is complete,
Yes.
you have authority to close the meeting. When you have agenda meetings that are still on here, that somebody wants to close before you get to them, that's when you really have to have a vote of the board, because you're effectively tabling everything that you haven't done. So you've completed your agenda. You may, if you want, call the meeting adjourned. If you would
Okay.
like to have a formal call for adjournment, you may do that as well.
Okay, I'm just gonna adjourn. The next meeting is scheduled for September 23rd. Virtual.
What?
At this time. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen and Nick.
Yes.
Thanks, Robert.